Hello, eighth grade. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to finish up our Manifest Destiny and the Mexican War notes. So, for our agenda today, make sure you're answering both the bell ringer and the exit ticket. Make sure you're following along with the notes. And also, one of your classmates suggested that I put a blank copy of the notes on Google Docs so you guys can type into it just in case. So, if that's easier, so I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. So you'll see that on the announcement as well. A blank Google Doc typable template for these notes. And then tomorrow, since we'll be done, I'm going to put the answer key up. So from now on, I think when we do our notes, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to attach a PDF in case you wanted to print it. And then I'm also going to do a typable Google Doc template as well. So our I can statement for today is list one positive impact that came out of the Mexican War. So today we're going to talk about the Mexican War and the response to that war, as it's connected to Manifest Destiny. And our notes yesterday, we talked about um, President Polk offering to buy more territory from Mexico. Mexico refused, and Zachary Taylor, who was a general, was brought soldiers, about 63 U.S. soldiers, to the disputed territory between the Nueces River and the Rio Grande, and that is where his soldiers were. 11 were killed, 5 were wounded, and they were all captured. So this is when President Polk decided to officially declare war. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. So responses to the war. To raise an army, the U.S. called for 50,000 volunteers, but over 200,000 people showed up to volunteer. So let's think about that patriotism, that manifest destiny, that willing to fight for one's country, believing that their country is has immense strength and power, and having lots of passion about that. That is what brought these people to volunteer. This was the first U.S. war fought mainly on foreign soil. So when I say foreign soil, know that it's still what we know, like on the border of the United States. So they're not, um, you know, far, like they're not in England or Europe or something like that, but they are, it was considered that to be fought mainly on foreign soil. This war lasted from April 1846 to February 1848. So, just to give you some kind of context of how long this war lasted. And this was also the first time that a war was covered by newspapers. Um, and this is pretty impactful because it wasn't just word of mouth, it was one printing press covering the same story that was being spread to multiple people. So that was pretty impactful, and it was also the first war to be photographed. So imagine, like, not having the news that we have today, especially at a time like this, not having these images, not having these articles, not having this coverage, and just kind of spreading the word of mouth. Um, you would know a lot less about what was going on around the world, and especially what's going on in the United States, especially at a time where things are changing every single day. So um, this really brought a lot of support for the Mexican War and that manifest destiny, as well as some conflict, but mainly a lot of support. Americans agreed that they were a strong country, they deserved to um, take up the entire continent. So having that press and having that publicity was pretty impactful for a war like this. So Abraham Lincoln is here because he was one of the abolitionists, or someone that did not support slavery. So many people were opposed to the war. Many in the Whig Party thought that the conflict was unjustified and unnecessary. So there was two political parties, and the Whig Party was one that did not um, support this war because they believed that it was just unnecessary to absorb this territory. So while I said that there was a lot of people that did support this war, it was mainly the people that were on that southern border. So people that were in politics and in D.C., between the Whig Party and the Democrats. The Whig Party was very much against it, but the Democrats gave overwhelming support to President Polk to push this through. So while the Whig Party thought that Polk was being greedy and land grabbing, so the Northern abolitionists opposed the war because they feared the spread of slavery. So a lot of slavery was happening on this territory of Texas, California, because these plantations that were creating these cash crops. So they were very worried about the upset between slave states and non slave states. So some believe that disagreements over the Mexican War would further divide the Americans. And as we see, this is pretty much accurate because the Civil War is right around the corner. So that is true. It does further divide the Americans. But it does also create a larger amount of territory for the United States. So Ralph Waldo Emerson was quoted saying the United States will conquer Mexico, but it will be as the man swallows the arsenic or poison, which brings him down in turn. So Mexico will poison us. So they say that it will conquer and it will be easy to conquer Mexico. This will not be a war that we will lose, but it will come with its own set of consequences. And Ralph Waldo Emerson was correct. So American victories, there were a lot of victories for America along the within the Mexican War. Um, the General Zachary Taylor won battles at the Nueces River, Palo Alto, and Resaca de la Palma. Taylor's victories drove the Mexican troops back into Mexico. So these victories were quick. Um, they were always on the American side. We were better equipped. We had more soldiers, more volunteers. So they were pushed back further and further and further, as you can see on this map. They would just go. Were being pushed all the way back down into southern Mexico, away from the disputed area that they were being that was being fought over. Taylor then crossed the Rio Grande River, which is right here, and started going into Mexican territory. Brigadier General Stephen Kearny attacked New Mexico and took Santa Fe without a fight. So, General Stephen Kearny was someone that was there to replace Zachary Taylor, and he pushed uh, Kearny pushed right here on the Santa Fe Trail and took his soldiers all the way to what is now like Los Angeles. And then there was also another soldier that we'll talk about, Fremont, who also pushed to Sutter's Fort near San Francisco. Kearny then marched towards Southern California. So at this point, Southern California was known as Oregon Country and was again going to be one of the pieces of territory that we do claim in the Union of the United States. So American rebels near Sonoma, California, rebelled and declared California an independent republic. So we saw this again with Texas when they tried to declare that they were also an independent nation, an independent republic. And John Fremont played a major role in this while leading his troops over into this area of California. This California Republic was nicknamed the Bear Flag Republic, which is very similar to the flag that they have today. And the U.S. forces took over San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So those major cities in California were taken over by the United States forces. So in 1847, President Polk named General Kearny governor. So throughout this time, there was a transition between Zachary Taylor to the support from the president to General Kearny, and General Kearny was then named governor, of California. Wanted to make that clear. So Zachary Taylor was called the Old Rough and Ready, was having massive success, and Polk feared he may run for president in 1848. So Zachary Taylor, again, was this person that was having all those victories and pushing the Mexicans down further into Mexico, away from the disputed area. So, as we've talked about many times before, um, that the best way to become an American president early on was to become an American war hero. So, with that being said, the president decided to replace Zachary Taylor again with Winfield Scott, who was known as Old Fuss and Feathers. Scott captured Mexico City on September 14th, 1847, and Zachary Taylor still continues his political career, which you'll see here in a second. So, some major positive impacts was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which was a treaty that was signed not exactly with President Polk's permission. There was a man named Nicholas Trist who signed the treaty. He was the chief clerk state of the State Department, and he went ahead and signed this treaty, um, not so much with the consent of the president. He kind of just did it because he saw the benefits of it. But the United States eventually did respect it. Turned over much of Mexico's northern territory to the United States. So that entire southern coast, that border with Mexico along the continent, that was all or turned over to territory for the United States. The Mexican secession or the separation included the states of California, Nevada, Utah, parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. So as of right now, they have not officially joined the union. They have not found the state lines of these states yet. But as you can see, these are major states. These are large states that were being brought into the United States territory. It increased the size of the U.S. by 25%. Remember, the Louisiana Purchase also increased the size of the U.S. by a large percentage, and the U.S. paid only $15 million for this territory. So, again, that's a significant amount of money, but today, that territory is worth much more, especially with all of the trading imports and exports that go in and out of the coast on these states. So the U.S. pays $10 million for the southern parts of New Mexico and Arizona. So these parts are paid through the Gadsden Purchase. So right here, and the continental boundaries of the U.S. were finally fixed. So at this point in history, right here, the Treaty of Guadalupe only purchased parts of Arizona and New Mexico, whereas right here, they finally were able to purchase this last territory, which was a major port that led to a lot of foreign trade, a lot of profit. So, with that being said, the United States territory went through the entire coast, which was exactly what um, the Americans wanted. So, with that being said, this is the end of the Manifest Destiny and the Mexican War Notes. Make sure you're answering both the exit ticket and the bell ringer and checking in attendance on that Google Classroom page. And then we are also going to do a Manifest Destiny reflection with a map questions I will assign tomorrow. Email me if you have any questions, and I hope you guys have a good day.